First of all, I would like to thank the European Union, countries of the region, the United States, international organizations for standing with the people of Afghanistan, with the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, and condemning the terrorist attack from which I survived, but unfortunately 17 innocent bystanders who were shop owners, street vendors, students from one family, two brothers whose third brother had been killed 10 days ago fighting in the army. They were all massacred. 40 people were injured. And you unitedly condemned that barbaric act, for which I truly remain grateful. Nobody claimed responsibility. But remember, in 2017, May 31, an attack was launched at the gate of the German embassy. A truck carrying tons of explosives could not find its way down the street, blew up itself right at the gate of the German embassy. For 3 years, Taliban denied any involvement in that heinous attack. 250 people were killed, more than 700 people were injured. Yet, before the start of the Afghan peace negotiations, Taliban put a tough demand: either release the culprits of that attack or we will not embrace the negotiations. They broke their deadly criminal silence. After 3 years, and now the whole evidence is in the presence of the international community. These unattributed attacks are not done by ghosts. They are done by people who are experts in such heinous acts. Today, we don't have hard evidence at hand implicating the Taliban directly. But I am very sure, trusting the capabilities of our national institutions, security institutions, it is a matter of time that we will find out. We do not need to attribute these attacks to imaginatory spoilers. There are no spoilers of peace. Peace has been spoiled, as the previous speakers mentioned, by one group. For over 25 years, they have waged and unleashed a senseless violence against the people of Afghanistan, and the massive majority of their victims have been civilians. Thank you for your support in condemning not only that attack, but every time Afghans suffer, it brings us so much strength to see our allies stand with us. I met for the first time the national hero, Commander Massoud, Chief Massoud. But let me pronounce his name in purity without all these adjectives that we have given it. Massoud. Massoud in Arabic Persian means the person of high luck, high virtue. The person with high stars in his faith. So Massoud by itself is dignified enough to be pronounced without all these adjectives that we have added, for the right reasons we have added. So let me call him the way my heart calls him every day and every night, my Massoud. I want to first share my sentiments and emotions and my perspective of the man who shaped my life, who shaped my character, who shaped my perspective and vision from early time of my life to this day, and I carry his legacy on my shoulders as much as I can. First, his mausoleum. If you go to the Panjshir Valley, his mausoleum from outside looks a rough structure. I thank the designers of that mausoleum. Massoud from outside looked a rough character. A commander should be rough, not soft. But when you enter the mausoleum, it is soft. It's marble. Massoud from inside, as Honorable Dr. Abdullah said, from inside he was a person of softness, a person with passion for Sufism, for poetry, for culture. So what did I learn being around him? I didn't have the privilege to call myself his aide or senior assistant or anything. To the very end of my life, I would pride myself by calling myself simply a soldier, and really a soldier of Massoud. Here is what I learned from him. One, you couldn't kill the thirst in him for intelligence and good information. Few days back, I gave an interview in which I said I am addicted to drinking intelligence. That addiction I inherited from him. He would drink intelligence, and he would value, appreciate, and cherish good information. That is a very rare trait in the leaders, to be appreciative of good things you take to them. Two, he was gracious. As we say, he would fill the space. He would fill the room. When he came in, then you would think his entrance into any place would be like sunrise. Then all the stars would disappear, and it will be him and his presence and his grace. Three, he was a man down to earth. He was hailing from a family of middle class, son of a colonel in the Afghan army, educated in the most prestigious high school of Afghanistan, thanks to France for building that prestigious institute. It is still running. Then ending up in one of the best universities of Afghanistan. When I did observe him in the villages, you would not think he comes from that background. He would mingle with the masses, with the peasants, with people of no stature, as if he was from them. That is why we say Massoud was born of the society, not of a family. He was born from a society. Four, a smile on his face. That was the gift of God to this man, to Massoud, to the man of high luck, and a man in whose destiny there were so many shining stars. He would always have this smile, and it was an enigmatic smile. It was a puzzling smile. It would have required you to decode him and see what he meant by looking at you enigmatically and making that smile. I have seen smiles, we all have seen smiles, but that rare, precious, enigmatic, historical smile is gone, only seen in his pictures. Smiles in leaders, again, is a very rare trait, especially for a man is spending much of his time with guns, with commanding, with violence, with, as the previous speaker said, is standing against something which ran against the dignity of his nation and his people. Fifth, man of no panic. That quality, I have a story after a story to tell you that he was a leader never sinking into panic. He once told me in 99, he said, "Wake me up if an emergency radio call asks you to wake me up." Around 1:30 a.m., I rushed to his bedroom, knocked the door, and woke him up. I said, "This is the nature of the message." He did that enigmatic smile and he said, "I told you, wake me up for emergency. This is emergency for you. It's not emergency for others." He would never, ever, in public conversations or meetings, call I. The word I had not heard from his mouth. It was a Quranic style. It was a godly style. In the Quran, in the book that we believe, God has only said 4 or 5 times I. Rest of it, hundreds of times, God says we, not I, because even God believes in the system. Massoud would always give the credit to success, to victory, to the masses, to the soldiers, to the fighters, to the units, to the people who would be around him. It would only be matters of him as a person that he would pronounce the word I. Otherwise, it was always we. A journalist asked him, they said, "Commander Massoud, you are a hero." He said, "No, people of Afghanistan are heroes. Look at them. What are they demanding of me? Only presence. I am not bringing them food. I am not bringing them economic development. I am with them defending our shared values and dignity." 6. He was always clean, very clean. Being clean here in Kabul, in the cosmopolitan areas of Afghanistan, being clean as a Khan of village having your garden is not an art. But being clean in the midst of conflict, war, in the midst of dusty places of Afghanistan was a rarity. He was always clean, stylish, and we would always envy, what shall we do to look like Massoud? And we never looked like him. He once took me to a dentist and he said, "We will try that the dentist does not recognize me." I said, "With all due respect, sir, you are one of a kind in 7 billion people. You are recognizable from the satellite, let alone this unique face from the earth. You are unhideable. How can the dentist not know who you are?" We had gone there with anonymity so that the dentist does not recognize him. When we entered the dental clinic, it took the dentist fraction of the second to stand like a soldier and said, "Sir, I didn't think my patient would be Chief Massoud, Amr Sahib Massoud." Humility and kindness. He was a person of magnificent humility and kindness. In Khojabaudin, in the place where he was eventually killed and his soul left us, I woke up earlier and I occupied his personal bath. Then he wakes up a couple of minutes after me and he asks his entourage, "Do not disturb whoever is inside this." And he goes and uses a makeshift bath to take shower for that morning. There was nothing belonging to him except his bed. Everything belonged to all of us, to that we, the we are missing today. And he had a massive chest for secrecy. And that is only character of people who are void of ego. who have not sunk into the trap of ego. He would drink intelligence. He would keep it secret. He will know the flaws, weaknesses, and strength of people, but he would never use words against anybody. He would treat each and every one with respect. He would have a sweet joke or a little story for each of his comrades. And each one of us would think, I am the chosen one because he has this little story with me. Later on, I would find out, no, he has thousands of these sweet stories with thousands of people. That is why still armies of people of no name in this country come to me and say, during the resistance, I was someone with name with this because I had access to him and he had this little story with me. He had a common narrative, national narrative, and he had a bilateral narrative for each and every one of us who were working with him. I met him first time in July or August 91. Coincidentally, our first meeting was filmed by the BBC. It's available on YouTube. I don't want to go in that story. But what is his legacy? And who are carrying his legacy? And what contribution do we make to his legacy? Let me be candid, as I have always tried in my life not to die with untold stories. He was the only jihadist leader not fearing to pronounce democracy and elections. It was him in the world of jihadism who introduced the vocabulary of democracy and elections. Before him, no jihadi leader would dare to pronounce rights of women, democracy, and elections. That shows multi-dimensional character of Massoud, a believer in God, but not an imposer on creatures of God. That is a rarity we have. He would not claim that God has given him a mission to torture other Afghans to accept his views or accept his ideology. His kindness, it was so much that he treated prisoners of war, Soviet soldiers, with dignity, with grace, with kindness, without having copy of the international humanitarian law or law of the war, or without having a single page of regulations and rules from ICRC. Massoud treatment of the Soviet and Russian prisoners was much, much better than those soldiers who are caught in conflicts of modern world. The other legacy we have from him is he's the only Afghan dead person that is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger every year. His commemorations becoming larger and larger and larger, because his vision keeps unfolding and we find out who this person was and what was he standing for. He posed for picture with the women who had come from Europe openly, and one of them is sitting here, Dr. Nila. His genuine struggle to empower women was not fake. He didn't believe in bringing women for decoration of the meetings to attract foreign aid. He genuinely wanted empowerment of women. And those who today say mentioning the name of your mother is disgraceful and indignity, that is exactly the opposite of Massoud. Massoud would say pronouncing the name of my mother is dignity, grace, and courage and humanity. And today we hear in Doha, Taliban spokesperson coming out and say, mentioning the name of your mothers is indignity. That is against the creeds and teachings of the Prophet. We know the name of the mother of the Prophet, his wives, and his female entourage. Are the Taliban higher than the Prophet Muhammad? Who are they? That is another legacy we have from Massoud. That empowerment of women should be the core of our struggle, the core of our vision. It should not be periphery, and it should not be in the margins of our agenda. Of course, legacy 3, he wasn't a prophet. And I am not saying, committing blasphemy to say he was a prophet. But like all history makers, he is susceptible to misinterpretation. He is susceptible to multiple interpretation. I am one of his interpreters, and there are millions of his interpreters. It depends. Our actions represent Massoud, not our stories. Those followers of Massoud who claim they were his closest associates, demonstration of that closeness should come from our firm standing against terror, against tyranny, against marginalization of women, against theft of public property, against ethnicization of the politics, against belittling the identity of Afghanistan, and against bowing to the pressure of external powers. Those who were with Massoud, you would be with him. With a man having no resources or very little, you would think, I am in the center of the universe. And his legacy is, never bow to external pressure. Stay on the side of your national dignity, on your national pride. They pushed him hard and hard and hard. They confined him to the most rugged territory of Afghanistan in the northeast. But he never for a second doubted his identity. He always called himself, I am an Afghan and I have a claim on every single inch of this land. Those of his followers who reduce him to a sub-national figure, who think he did not stand for all of Afghanistan, they are misinterpreters of Massoud. The real interpreters of Massoud believe in the entirety of this land and the strength of this identity. An identity as strong as Marajan steel, which has come under enormous pressure from north, from south, you name it, from below, from above, and it is still there. It is still here in this foreign ministry. The last, his resistance was not about him. I am coming to the end of my commentary, speech, whatever you like to call it, and I would like to carry that legacy with me if I ever was to be asked how Massoud's legacy can be incorporated into the negotiations with the Taliban. We were in Ashgabat, and I had a job that after each meeting with the Taliban leaders, I would call him on satellite phone and brief him about the sessions of that day. As a young, inexperienced, excited person, I was lured by the Taliban concessions, who said, Amrullah, tell your boss, we are not going to disarm him for 5 years. We are going to give him autonomy in the region he controls for 5 years. We would like to create in a parliament. We will ask him to appoint 20% of the parliament members. We will appoint the 80% ourselves. After 5 years, once he is assured that we are not against him, We will fully incorporate him in the system. I got excited. I called Massoud. I called him. He had this sweet adjective he would use for people he thought he was close to. Gangs, the dizzy. I called him and told him the story. He said, "Dizzy man, you are not there to negotiate my fate. You are there to negotiate the fate of the country. Tell these mullahs, I want nothing. I want one vote for one person. I do not want an intelligence conspiracy instilled in the body of a blind mullah to wake up in the morning and say, God has assigned me to torture a nation. I will stand against that torture. Tell the Taliban, I want no autonomy. I want all of Afghanistan. I don't want a selected parliament. I want an elected parliament. And tell the Taliban, the vote has to be for men and women. If they do not agree to these terms, all you do is smile and leave that meeting." The next day, I was not the chief negotiator. The chief negotiator was Yunus Qanuni. We communicated this to the Taliban negotiator, Maulavi Mutawakkil. We said, "Very respected Maulavi, we are not here to negotiate the fate of Commander Massoud. We are here to negotiate the fate of a nation. And the fate of that nation should not be decided by you or by me. They should be allowed to decide their own fate, and that comes from franchise, and that comes from going to their heart and telling them what they want." You know what his response was? He said, "Masses are always ignorant. It is the elite which we should negotiate with." That is why we say we do not want peace of the elite. We want peace of the masses. Peace has to be socialized. Peace has to be socialized by a peasant, by a shepherd, by a shop owner, by a barber, by a woman, by the smallest Afghan. Peace of the elite will ensure survival of the elite at the cost of the marginalization of the masses. That we will not want. We want the peace. Desirability for peace is now pan-Afghan. It is global. But let us be very clear. Peace is not meaning showing concession to the Taliban at the expense of the wishes of the majority, absolute majority of the Afghans. And peace should not legitimize illegitimate interest of any external country interfering in our affairs. It should provide a space, dignified space for legitimate interest of all our neighbors. But if the peace, the cost of peace, is imposition of illegitimate, disgraceful interest of others upon us, that was resisted yesterday, it will be resisted today, and it will be resisted the day after. In order for us to have the legitimacy, the strength, and the courage to sign a peace deal which is implementable, it has to be peace of the masses. And the masses, what do they want? 86% of the people under the Taliban control have said they want republic. At the peak of their popularity, the Taliban did not gain more than 5 to 10% acceptance in the Afghan society. Let us not enlarge them. They are a violent group. Of course, they dominate the agenda because of the sheer violence. Few days ago, I said the moment they make peace, the society will melt them down. Because apart from a flawed message for the afterlife, the Taliban lack message for today, for life. You cannot answer every question with a message, oh, wait for death. You will be glorified in the afterlife. That's what they keep saying. I congratulate the team of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan for their great performance in Doha, for their continuous great performance in Doha. They were shining, they were diverse, they were not all looking alike like a line of penguins with black and white attire. We have to respect and represent our diversity. We will continue to be diverse in nature, diverse in our fabric, but united in our stand that nothing that goes against our creed, our core values, will be imposed on us. I once again thank all of you for being with us today, commemorating Massoud. No doubt he was the son of this soil, a true patriotic Afghan, but he died in a war which today, till today, the world is still fighting. Thank you very much.